The idea of the idea of sampling has first came about when in the in the early record pressing days. I'd say in the 1900s when they figured out that you can make that there's at the end of a matrix cycle linear event of writing directly in a linear fashion, direct to disc, one shot, not recursive, it won't come back and write. Is in the 1900s when they were able to, when there was extra time at the end of a wax cylinder on a record, and somebody made a mistake with the tapes once, and they figured out you could put in 3 seconds on a Victrola and have the needle jump back and play it over and over again like a skipping record. That's the idea of looping as it first happened. It was also a marketing thing too, an aberration and an anomaly that occurred when they were starting to make records for cheaper, and then people's pickup needles on their Victrolas or turntables wouldn't be able to notice what was going on. And then they invented auto return on the carriage arm to take a record arm back off properly backward. That's where Abraxas comes in. That's the idea of that's why one-sided records are the best. One-sided, the idea of printing, even now with DMM. I'm not talking about the 1960s, 70s, or 80s, or even 90s DMM. I'm talking about real DMM. With DMM nowadays, you could literally print to a piece of cardboard, and if you could find a way to make it have grooves, you could record into it. And you see what I'm saying? You could record left to right channel information into the grooves on a piece of pulp. If you could find a way to make it molten, so that because printing is a physical event, record cutting, lathe cutting, and making negatives of the metal master is a negative of what you're doing. But the idea of tape sampling came about with all the things you can do with tape. You can when you go to school for audio engineering, they show you how to look at waveforms as printed waveforms on chromium tape or metal magnetic tape, where you can recording tape like a cassette. They'll show you the waveforms, the information that was printed. You can sampling, tape aficionados, tape operators, and tape heads and analog people all adore tape for that reason. The idea of looping and sampling is just wanting to grab a particular sound or essence. You're like, look, hip-hop came about, and it was all about found sounds, music concrete, and found sounds. You would chop beats, and you would scour to get the perfect kick drum, the perfect snare, the perfect head tom, the perfect ride cymbal, and you would load your favorite sessions. And it's also beautiful because you're incorporating something greater into something you're doing. You have, the kick drum is from this song that you love, and it creates a different sonic environment from different audio sources that were all different dynamics, different, times in history they were sampled from, according to the equipment used at that time, and you bring sampling together. And that's why hip-hop is dead. I mean, they don't do that anymore, so therefore it's no good. When you've... I mean, beat making to me started when I was a kid, and it came from non-synchronous dubbing on a deck. I'd listen to Led Zeppelin records, or Run DMC records even, or the Boogie Brothers, or anything I could get my hands on back then. And that's when I first understood loops. I thought I was making drum beats. No, I was learning about magnetic tape loops. And the beat will pass once on your record. You'll hit pause on your recording deck. You'll record one pass. You'll put the record back to the start, and then you wait for it to come in again, and then you unpause the tape, and you have to do it 300 times. It's a labor of love. And soon you have a non-synchronous pause tape, and you have a drum beat that loops. Then came the guitar sampler. I was playing guitar, and I was still fucking with tape at that point. I was probably about 15 years old, and I noticed that you could send an audio source if you can get a 1/4-inch jack to an 1/8-inch jack from a Walkman into a guitar pedal, and you could sample a beat or sounds into your guitar pedal, and it would loop. It had loop mode, but the loop mode was like 50 milliseconds. It would chop off 50 milliseconds too early, so you had one chance to capture the loop. But when you captured it, it was like a punch, and you had to go, okay, start, out. You know, you press out, you punch out, and there'd be that 50 millisecond lag. But once you got it, then you committed to tape, and it was awesome hearing shit that was digitally looped. This was before computers. It was digitally looped. By this time, music was being made like that. And just sampling. Buying my first Casio SK1 keyboard. That was a big deal back then. It would sample, and it would like crush your voice to like 8-bit or 11,000 kilohertz. Yeah, it was awesome. It was dirty as fuck. You could sing into it, play into it, plug an instrument, but it would sample at 11,000 kilohertz, which is kind of, to me, that ain't too bad. I mean, it's dirty, but some sounds would translate really well at 11,000 kilohertz. Casio, and you can make it sound like Stacy Q. I need you. That was a big deal. And then came, the first time you ever downloaded Cool Edit on your computer. You had an IBM 166, and you're like, oh my god. And it had built-in DSPs. All those DSPs before computers came out cost us big money in prizes. If you wanted a flange, all these shits are built right in. Back then, when you first got a computer, you're like, although the algorithms fucking blow, the distortion sucked, the reverb sucked, the echo sucks, but still in all, you could edit now and fuck around with shit like that. And then, you could record at 44.1 or 48 if you wanted to, kilohertz per second. But by then the thrill was gone and the feeling was gone. Love on the rocks. Pour me a drink and I'll tell you some lies about what I like about tape. Yesterday's gone, baby. All I want is a smile. Isn't that the greatest song? Love on the Rocks. That ain't no big surprise. Why don't you pour me a drink and I'll tell you some lies. Yesterday's gone, and now all I want is a smile. Turn on your fucking heart light for that one, huh? First they say they want you, they never need you. Suddenly you find you're out there, walking in a storm. And when they got you, then they've really got you. There's nothing you can do or say. You got to leave. Just get away. We all know the song. Aren't those some incredible lyrics? Little Mealbot was listening to Love on the Rocks, and I came up to her and I tapped her on the shoulder, and she's like, "Wow, I was just reading the lyrics." And then I picked up the phone and I realized how strong the lyrics are. I'm like, holy shit. Fucking Neil Diamond. Yeah, Neil Diamond. But yeah, Renee's brother had an MPC-1. He was very, 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 I told you that. He was extremely talented. And he worked really hard for it, though. It's not like he worked hard for all his shit. And I forget what he was doing then, but he bought one of those. He bought the original. The original is big. It's not like these new ones. That was a good review that Bolo did there. I was watching that. But my thought is the original MPC was fucking huge. I guess everybody knows that or whatever. The new ones look good, but I remember watching him do it on there. And it's just a matter of loading into these big push button. Yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing. It used floppy disk, I think, too, didn't it? I'm trying to remember, but the shit was awesome, and I got to fuck with it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. It had big throw faders. Yeah. You know, I want to use all that shit for rock and roll. I've done it before. I got my own sound I make. You know, my fucking my Zoom 16 track can do that shit, but getting to fucking do it is way hard. And you don't even matter, you piece of shit. Fucking Neil Diamond.